Hello and welcome back again to part 2 of a podcast about the Kingslayer, Jaime Lannister. If you have not heard part 1, stop right now. Go back and listen to part 1. This is a direct continuation. You are going to be a little lost on some pretty cool Jaime Lannister facts if you have not listened to part 1.
Get back and listen.
That's Nick. He's on the line with me. We're going to jump right back into it. We are going to take a journey through Jaime Lannister's book arcs.
Let's roll.
All right. So we start off in a Game of Thrones with The Things I Do for Love. That's pretty much our first, like we see Jaime before that, but we don't really get a sense of him. We just know he's in the Kingsguard. He's there.
He's the pretty knight, that everybody knows and thinks is the best.
I think it's told from, all of that's told from Bran's point of view. Maybe John gets one chapter in there too, but basically anybody who looks at him is like, oh, that's what a knight should look like.
Exactly.
And then Bran is climbing somewhere he shouldn't be, and Jaime and Cersei find him. Or he finds Jaime and Cersei,
I was going to
rather.
say, he finds little Jaime and Cersei action, and lo and behold, and here we go on the tour of a Game of Thrones.
The Things I Do for Love.
The things he does for love.
And this is something that the show did really great. Ending episode 1 on that is like just fantastic TV making. Like this is what you're in for. We're gonna kill a kid because like anybody watching just episode 1 doesn't know that Bran's okay. Mm-hmm. We're gonna kill a kid right at the end of the first episode. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, that's such a trippy series of events. It's the pilot, brother and sister getting some action, and boom, dead kid. They hit the trifecta there.
Yeah, that's some sort of trifecta. I don't see. That's a serial killer trifecta. I
that's
guess.
thriller. That's thriller watching right there.
It got me coming back for more. Once I could discern between who Robert and Ned and John and Rob were, like their faces all just blended together. It was rough, but on your second watch through, you really get a better feel for who everyone actually is.
Yeah.
This perfectly encapsulates kind of where we left off with Jaime's best act of killing Aerys to what he is now, that he's been around Cersei for, I want to say 9 to 12 years at this point. I think it's 12 years. So it's all about her. Whatever he can do for her, he has become an asshole knight. Like nothing else matters as long as he can be with her and keep his secrets safe and looking out for himself and Cersei. That's all he cares, and their children.
Yeah.
That's all he cares about at this point, which is completely different from him killing Aerys to save millions.
Yeah, he's grown into this selfish little asshole that's wrapped around Cersei's finger. He
Just mention one more time, Cersei, not a good person.
No. If you did not know this, I am sorry that you could not pick up on that. But she's terrible, and I think it's really unique to his character how far he's really, really willing to go to be there for his sister. Yeah.
And he does. So then, I mean, not much else happens while they're in Winterfell. They not from Jaime and Cersei's perspective. Maybe somebody hired somebody to finish the job on Bran. I don't think it was Jaime. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Jaime would just kill someone on his own, especially an 8-year-old. So then we get back to King's Landing, blah, blah, blah. They have sex a lot more times. And then Robert dies and Jaime attacks Ned Stark.
Yep.
Breaking the neutrality of the Kingsguard. Usually Kingsguard are supposed to be neutral because at this point there's no rebellion or anything like that. There's no war.
No war of the Five Kings.
This actually starts the war. He injures Ned because that's why he attacks. Catelyn had taken Tyrion prisoner.
Yep.
And so he basically retaliates with attacking Ned and his men, killing many of Ned's men. Robert wasn't dead yet.
No, he was basically dying, and Ned was going to deliver the letter that stated that Joffrey, my rightful heir, that whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another. I think Jaime fell into a monotonous life with Cersei. Like, she was good enough, she talked him into being good enough, but he loves him some more in some battles, and he's been wanting to get after Ned Stark for 15
Yeah,
years, something like
this
that.
peacetime was not doing well for him. He
No.
got some battles in there with the Greyjoy Rebellion and whatnot, but there wasn't a lot going for him at the time.
Well, he doesn't view. I mean, those people are Ironborn scum in his eyes. Like
That's true.
they're might as well be, peasants. Whereas Ned Stark, he killed Sir Arthur Dayne. Big air quotes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Arthur Dayne died, and Ned was there.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's why I said big air quotes because
and
Ned
yeah,
gets the
and
credit.
Arthur Dayne was this person, like all of the Kingsguard at that time when Jaime became a Kingsguard, like he looked up to them. These
Hmm.
were very important people to him and very good people to him.
They're the best
So
knights.
it like Sir Arthur Dayne is one of Jaime's mentors, basically, and for Ned to have killed him, whether he actually did or not, the
Yeah,
world believes he did. So that's something that Jaime's looking for payback on.
gotta
Um,
get it.
but so then basically after that, Jaime goes and joins the Lannister army. He wins a lot of battles there. He captures Edmure Tully. It just war things for the most
Hmm.
part. After Robert's death, he's named Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. This is under Joffrey after Joffrey tells, Barristan Selmy, get the F out of here.
Dumb.
Yeah,
Super, super
bad
dumb.
choice.
Super dumb.
He goes and helps somebody that's going to be coming back to bite you in the ass there,
Yeah,
Lannisters.
absolutely. But isn't that so dumb? Like that is so Joffrey to send
He's very
away
impulsive.
your best exactly, but he's still a boy. You send away your best defender, like personal defender, Barristan Selmy's the man,
Well, and
and you take your most valuable commander out of the field.
it's
Dumb.
Cersei just as much because Cersei thinks by making Jaime Lord Commander that he's going to come back, obviously.
Yeah.
So she needs Barristan out of the way so she can name Jaime Lord Commander. That'll bring him back, which I don't think it would have even if he doesn't get captured. And then because I think at this point he prefers to be at war than with Cersei and Joffrey. Eventually he would make it back, but I don't think it
Yeah.
would have been immediate as she wanted. But it also it puts more pieces in her hands, and she's not someone to think out all her moves. Like she's very impulsive and does whatever's going to benefit her most at that moment. So
At
making
that moment,
Jaime Lord Commander is the best thing she can think of. She'll have the best knight in her mind to protect her children and herself, and she has Jaime closer to her, which she needs. And she doesn't see that turning on Barristan will
bite her in
turn
the
him
ass.
turn him into a foe, basically.
I mean, dude, you nailed that one on the head.
Barristan
Brilliant.
probably won't actually make it back, but the lessons that he's taught to Dany will probably make it back.
Yeah.
So then Jaime gets captured at the end of A Game of Thrones by Robb Stark's army when they pull the old switcheroo on him.
Yeah.
And Robb Stark just dominating battle.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not riding in on his dire wolf. Probably not. Probably just mind controlling him.
That would be so cool. And that will come up later on in the future as well.
Yes. Love those dire wolves.
Oh yeah.
Show doesn't seem to know that they exist, but that's okay. We know you're out there.
Come on, HBO, don't give me that bullshit that
Except for you,
dire
lady.
wolves are too expensive. Come on now. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really fascinating that Jaime got captured by Robb Stark. He got punked out by Robb Stark, where he's
15-year-old boy.
He's a great commander. Jaime is cream of the crop commander wise, and Robb Stark nails him, and that was such a momentum shift and such just a killer gut punch to the south.
Yeah, speaking of gut punches, Robb Stark's got one coming for him.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Don't worry about that. So we move into A Clash of Kings, the second book in the. Did you have anything else in Game of Thrones that I skimmed over? I kind of went through them fast. Like Game of Thrones, Jaime doesn't have a whole lot. He's just asshole knight, wants to fight.
I do have other stuff, but we'll touch on it later when we're kind of talking about the show as well.
Okay. So then Clash of Kings, Tyrion's got a couple plans to try and free Jaime right at the beginning. First he sends in some disguised soldiers. That doesn't happen.
Mm-mm.
Bad plan.
Nope. It really causes Jaime some grief. But I thought is curious how Tyrion he wants Jaime back, but that is the perfect thing to use to be able to, get Cersei's support. Kind of gain a little power for himself and get in her good graces. But in the end, it fails, and Jaime gets he starts getting malnourished, and not
Yeah, he's got a rough time in there.
yeah, nothing good happens after that.
So then Tyrion swears that he'll trade Sansa and Arya if Arya is ever found for Jaime. Robb declines this offer, but Catelyn, at the end of Clash of Kings, this is all I have. These are the only 2 points I have for Clash of Kings for Jaime, so fill in my blanks if I'm missing something. But basically it ends with Catelyn freeing Jaime. We get that great line of he's loved by one for a kindness he never did and reviled by so many for his finest act, as she lets him go with Brienne.
Uh, what a dumbass move. But the only thing I want to add
no.
is
She wants her kids back.
Can you blame her?
No, not at all.
But that when I was reading the books, I felt myself sitting there like, you idiot, no, like you're missing the big picture, and you're a lady of this prestigious house. You can't miss that big picture. But I really thought Tyrion's words, they had a lot of weight to them because he swears to trade the Stark sisters in open court.
Right.
And, witnesses.
So, like, he can't go back on that.
Exactly. And, I mean, that adds a lot of, no one can go back. That's the word of the court now. You could try to sweep it under the rug, but that's just not going to fly. So.
Well, and that's kind of her deal with Jaime. Like, she knows that it was made in open court, so she tells him, look, this is how it's got to go.
Yeah. And I still think it was the right move by Robb to deny that. He firmly came out and said, like, I'm not willing to lose this war over my two sisters, even though I love them.
It's a dick move, Robb. I got a problem with you.
I got a problem with you. Well, I mean, he gets his later on.
Yeah, maybe you deserve to die, Robb.
You son of a bitch.
Got to look out for your sisters, man. So then we get to A Storm of Swords, which this, to me, is where Jaime's story really takes a turn, and he becomes interesting. And the Storm of Swords is probably his most interesting story as just him.
Yeah.
There's some stuff in Feast for Crows that's good, but A Storm of Swords is Jaime's best book by far.
It's where he truly shines, and it's where he goes from, they've been building up to him as, like, a character with more depth, and now they finally let you dive in.
Yeah, he has these moments of thoughtfulness in the first two books, and none of the first two books, none of his appearances are told from his point of view, and that's probably why he doesn't get much depth. Yeah. And then all of a sudden in Storm of Swords, we get his point of view chapters, and you can just see the wheels turning and how. Yeah, he appears to be this asshole knight, but there are things kind of backing that up in his head. Like he's doing it for the things he loves, or he's doing it to preserve something. It's not just malice, like the Mountain.
Yeah, he's not a bad guy. He just does some bad shit.
He does bad things, yeah. So it starts off, he's on the journey with Brienne through basically through the Riverlands, going back to King's Landing. He fights, pretty well, chained up. Mm. It's here that you really see that he's the best fighter. No limitations can hold him down. And even later when he's fighting left-handed, he can hold his own. Even though he can't hold the sword well, he can hold his own because he knows what to do. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting his hand to do what he knows is right.
That 15, 16 years of muscle memory that he built up as a boy. And didn't he fight Brienne with his left hand?
Yeah, or he fought chained up against Brienne.
Chained up, malnourished, like he did in a pen for, however long, and he comes out, and Brienne is no slouch.
He fights her to a draw, at least.
Yeah, she is no slouch.
No, she's very good, and she's very strong.
Well,
she's strong and quick, which is interesting.
She's one of my favorite characters as well in the books. I think they just don't give her enough love in the show, whereas in the books,
no, she's a bodyguard in the show.
Exactly, and she works so well with Jaime,
which she gets her own chapters later as well, which helps. Basically, anyone who started out as a side character and then gets their own point of view, they become the most compelling characters because they're like, oh, they were doing these things for reasons.
Mm-hmm. Now we know.
Yeah, but they get captured by Vargo Hoat, the old goat, as he's called. He has Jaime's hand cut off, left-handed, as my Reddit friend points out.
Yep.
But Vargo Hoat does this basically hoping that the blame will fall on Roose Bolton, who is already in the process of changing to the Lannister side. So that'll give Vargo Hoat a little, if he basically brings Jaime in and says, look what Roose Bolton did, I'm your man, Roose isn't, he'll get in Tywin's good graces. That doesn't work out for Vargo Hoat.
No, it does not.
Oh, no, sorry. I read that wrong. He actually plans to turn Jaime over to the Karstarks and turn them against Roose Bolton.
Well, yeah, because
the Karstarks want him back for killing the Karstark children in the Whispering Wood, in the Battle of the Whispering Wood. That's what's going on. My bad.
Yeah, you're right. Because he was gunning for Robb to try to win the battle and cut them down. But yeah, he's basically trying to. He's too big for his britches. I don't even know what the hell he's doing.
Yeah, Vargo Hoat's a weird dude.
Well, he's a northerner too, so he automatically hates Jaime's guts.
And in the audiobook by the great late Roy Dotrice, he does this perfect weird voice for Vargo Hoat, which like encapsulate how creepy and disgusting he is and the kind of person that he is.
I always think of that like pig monster from the original Power Rangers.
Yeah, that's kind of what he sounds like. Yep.
Oh, nice.
Great pig monster. Power Rangers had some strange monsters they had to fight.
Yeah, no shit. They really did.
But they end up at Harrenhal, and then I just want to take some time to talk about the relationship with Brienne, and I will call this section The Bear and the Maiden Fair, which is what their relationship is, except Brienne is the bear and Jaime the maiden fair.
I always thought that was great.
Yeah. Which, yeah, it's great that they constantly sing this song. Brienne ends up having to fight a bear, which Jaime saves her from. But basically, Vargo Hoat and his men are going to rape Brienne. This is where he teaches her to go away inside, as he did at witnessing atrocities, and then yells out sapphires to save her, which is maybe the third best thing Jaime's ever done. Is save somebody who he has no reason to care for from something that happens on a daily basis in this world. Like, why is he putting himself out? Like, he already got his hand chopped off. They will kill him for this.
Well, he's gonna get what he wants. He's gonna get taken back to King's Landing or wherever it is. I don't recall where he's going. I'm pretty sure it's King's Landing. Why would he care about this Brienne person who's already judged the hell out of him, gotten in a fight with him and all that?
Well, and I think it's because he sees a true knight in her, which is something he always wanted to be and looked up to. And he was for a while until he killed Aerys and Cersei got in his mind. He was that person and he wanted to be that person. So he sees that in her and wants to keep that purity to her, I guess.
And I think he sees that she sees that in him, and he really, really likes that. Like, he wants to be that guy again, but he's just so bogged down with Cersei's crap.
Yeah. Damn Cersei. Get out of our life, Cersei. So we don't need you. So Jaime loses his hand, and which is always been the best thing about him is his sword hand.
Yeah.
And this is when he starts to become a better person. And this is, I mean, that's the thing that makes his arc actually compelling and an arc. Basically, he loses his hand and goes from I'm an asshole to I'm going to now focus on being a good person because I can't just do what I want anymore. In the past, I could do what I want because I'm the best fighter and I can beat anyone if I need to. So now he has to learn how to be a better person.
Well, in his mind, he's nothing without that hand. No one looks at him as anything but that hand. So it's, that really shatters his identity when he loses it.
Right. And so this is something that he realizes, and this is something that George R. R. Martin kind of pulled from the Once and Future King, basically the stories of King Arthur, is this idea that the Knights of the Round Table were fighting against the popular thought at the time was basically might is right. Basically, if you're strong, whatever you say goes. Yeah. So if you're the strong one, you're right because you're the strongest one there and nobody can argue with you because you'll beat them. So the Knights of the Round Table were going out on their quest fighting against that. And that's what Jaime starts to see, that same kind of point of view, is that might isn't necessarily right, but it's a way to pass on what is actually right. So you have to use it to get what you want sometimes, but what you want is to get people to the point where that's not needed anymore.
Absolutely.
And Jaime, once he loses his hand, can do that.
Absolutely.
We have the great scene in the show of Brienne, and this happens in the books as well. Brienne and Jaime in the bath together, where Brienne kind of talks about her backstory and what happened with Renly and the other people. And then he combines in her the story of the sack of King's Landing, which I want to give a quick shout out to the Free Refills podcast, who responded to our tweet, sent us an email saying basically hands down that's the best scene in the bath, with Brienne and Jaime just kind of going back and forth on the story. He actually said hand and then in parentheses an S, so it's Jaime's hands down. So yeah, that scene in the bath is just perfectly encapsulates why Jaime was actually good when he was doing things that everybody reviles him for.
And I love that transition in the books and the show from, he's vulnerable in front of her. Like, they're in this bath together. He sent everyone away. It's just him and her, and he's opening up to her.
This is something he hasn't told anyone. He's never even told Cersei why he killed. Like, everybody just assumes he killed Aerys so the Lannisters could be on the winning side, to guarantee they're on the winning side. But with this story, it proves that wasn't behind it at all.
Well, no one would believe him if he told them. Like, he's known as the Kingslayer, and I think it shocks Brienne because she believes him. Like, she's listening to it, and she is just like, I think she fully buys into who Jaime Lannister is at that time.
Yeah, and that's where she sees, okay, this is a good man who has become troubled and has gotten off his path. And Brienne is his vessel to get back on the path to good, and she helps him with that, and it happens.
That North Star.
So then he gets freed. He has a strange dream while laying on a weirwood stump, which weirwood's very big role in the book. Has this weird dream, decides he needs to go back and rescue her, rescues her from the bear pit, jumps in the bear pit, not even thinking twice, no weapon, only one hand, no idea how he's going to defeat this bear or get her out. But he knows once he's in there that Roose Bolton's men aren't going to let him get eaten by a bear.
Yeah. And I mean, there's still that possibility. There's nothing they can do. It's a bear. Like, yeah. He may be dead before, they can
get him
up
the rope or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that's a testimony to how much of a badass Brienne is, and Jaime. In the books, they really explain how big he is. Like, he's a pretty big jack dude, and even being malnourished, I think he has that imposing figure where a bear might take a step back. Doesn't really work out that well, but
no, bears don't usually back down from humans.
No, but if you can get big, you're like 4% likely to survive.
There you go. That's how you survive a bear attack. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica.
Go back and listen to episode 45 podcast about Dinner Party.
Didn't see a whole lot of right answers on the Twitter feed, guys.
Come on. We got one right answer. Thank you, Jeremiah. Your prize pack is coming out.
Nice.
It's in the mail today.
Congrats, Jeremiah.
Got some great stuff in there.
Jelly.
There were some very bad answers too. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
You better look next time. So then Brienne and Jaime make their way back to King's Landing. He actually defends Brienne to Loras because Loras confronts her about the murder of Renly. He thinks she did it. She obviously didn't. So the ghost of Stannis, some weird shadow baby monster, made by Stannis, killed Renly. But Jaime takes Brienne's side, which again, no reason to do that to Loras. Loras is his Kingsguard brother now. Really, he needs Loras on his side more than he needs Brienne at this point. But he pretty much says she's one of the most noble people I know. If she didn't do it, if she says she didn't do it, she didn't do it.
Yeah,
and Loras kind of has to take him at that.
Loras respects, he respects the shit out of Jaime. I think as a knight to another knight.
Other than the kingslaying, yes, because
Yeah.
Loras, like Jaime, was he was a knightly prodigy, basically. From a young age, was the best always. And, there's an argument to be made that he's actually the best fighter in the Seven Kingdoms.
And there's a lot of merit to it, too.
Yeah.
And he's pretty badass. The Knight
Plus,
of
he's
the
got
Flowers.
the power of the Iron Fist, so that helps. That helps when fighting dragon. That's how it's all going to come together. Oh, shit, we just blew it wide open.
Dude.
Daenerys is going to ride in with her dragons, and he already knows how to defeat them.
Iron Fist.
Crossover we've all been waiting for.
Luke Cage will be there. Ballistas ain't got shit on me, son.
Yeah, what's Dragonfire going to do to Luke Cage? Nothing.
Nothing.
Daredevil can't even see him. Doesn't matter. All right.
Peace.
Thanks, guys. We just solved everything. Don't worry about watching season 8. We got it for you.
Round of applause. We're the best.
And then Tywin gives him it's not named Oathkeeper yet, but one of the swords made from ice, one of the Valyrian steel swords made from ice, which Jaime has always coveted a Valyrian steel sword ever since his uncle lost theirs. Bastard. Stupid Uncle Jerry. Going into Valyria, who does that? Come on now.
Idiot.
So he passes that on to Brienne and tells her, you keep your oath to Catelyn. You go find her daughters.
Yeah.
You need this more than I do. I'm good. I can't even fight anyways. I only got one hand.
That's, the Valyrian steel blades have a history of staying in the family. So Jaime could, that's a sign of it's a family heirloom. And the fact that he gives it to Brienne, who is looked down upon by her father, it's basically saying, you do have merit. You are a good enough knight, person, whatever, to lead your family forward. Have this dope-ass sword.
As it's said in the show, when she tries to give it back, he tells her to keep it because, this happens in the book. She wants him to keep it. She can't take it from him. He says, no, this was made from Ned Stark's sword. You're going to protect his children. This is their family sword. They need this, basically. They need this to be their protector, as it always was.
Poetic.
Then you have Joffrey, on the other hand, who cuts up a book that he could have learned a lot from.
Yeah,
Stupid Joffrey.
Such a shit.
Speaking of which, Jaime gets there just a smidge too late to prevent Joffrey's death.
Just a smidge.
In enough time to bone Cersei right in front of his corpse.
Willingly.
Yes, very consensual sex. And I would even argue that in the show, it's consensual. It's a little closer to the line.
It's aggressive as shit.
It's aggressive, yes. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it makes you uncomfortable.
Cersei isn't saying no to the idea. She's saying no to where they are.
Exactly.
We can't do this right here.
This is
but then she does give in.
Yeah, I think.
And I'm sure in this era that there will be thoughts on how that is not completely consensual, but in the book it is much more consensual than in the show, and I would even argue that in the show it's mostly consensual.
It's all about context, and I think in the context of that show, and in the book, they explicitly state it's willing, in the book, and in the show, it's just aggressive, and it really comes across as, forcing himself on her, but I think you nailed it on the head. She just doesn't want to, get down next to her dead kid. It's like, come on.
She's not in the right headspace at that time to be getting some one-handed loving.
It's got to be wild for her.
She's super grossed out by his stump, too.
Yeah,
let's not forget that.
He doesn't look like the Jaime she's known and loved for, her whole life, basically. He's this different person, so I think that had to have been pretty shocking.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't look anything like him. So he's got a beard, his hair's shaved, he's only got one hand, he's very skinny.
Stinks.
Yeah, does not smell good. But this is actually the last time that Jaime and Cersei have sex. Again, contrary to the show where they just continue to have sex and Cersei may or may not now be pregnant, which, stupid. Let's just move on from that. So then he helps Varys orchestrate Tyrion's escape. And this is where he tells Tyrion all about what Tysha actually was. And Tyrion, upon hearing this, tells Jaime about Lancel, the Kettleblacks, and Moonboy, for all I know.
Yeah.
That hits Jaime hard. I felt bad for Jaime in this moment.
Well, that's the only woman he's ever loved, that he's ever been with. That's, he's done all this to get back to her, and then boom, gut punch. Um,
Well, and
she's
Jaime
been,
thinks he's doing the right thing in telling Tyrion. He thinks he's saying, "Look, no, I know you don't think you're anything to be loved, but there was someone who loves you, and I'm here, and I love you. So like you're not a complete waste like you think you are. You don't have to do the things that you do to validate yourself.
yeah.
That's what Jaime's trying to portray by telling Tyrion what happened." But Tyrion just gets pissed off because of everything that happened with Shay and bringing up all these feelings of Tysha again. And yeah, we know where Tyrion goes from there.
And, Tyrion, kind of loses it when Jaime tells him this stuff initially. And I think he's not entirely convinced yet that Jaime believes him. So I think it adds another, bit of complexity to it. And I think Jaime is trying to say that as a way of saying, I trust you, brother. Let me
Yeah,
tell you this huge secret. But he totally misreads that situation.
yeah, Jaime's not the smartest.
Mm-mm.
He's okay, but
He's
not
not
the
book smart.
smartest.
He's
No.
street smart.
But yeah, this really sticks with Jaime. It's kind of the same as we were talking about in part one with the with how Tyrion really believes the wherever whores go thing. Jaime like keeps repeating Lancel and whichever Kettle Black, I don't remember which one, but Tyrion points out one of them specifically, and
Mm-hmm.
Moon Boy for all I know, and like he keeps replaying that in his head, and like he legitimately thinks Cersei had sex with Moon Boy, which I mean I wouldn't put it past her, but
Hell
I don't
no.
think it happened.
I,
Definitely a Kettle Black, definitely Lancel. I don't know
yeah.
about Moon Boy,
That just has to be, that's where we see the break begin to
for
form.
all I know. Yeah, and that's his break. He's done. He's very happy. After Tywin's funeral, he gets sent on this mission to the Riverlands, and Cersei's not very happy with him at this point either, because I don't remember if he tells her that he let Tyrion out, but like he's not concerned that Tyrion's not there.
She yells at him,
She doesn't like that.
he killed our son, he killed your boy, saying these things that should cut Jaime
And
like
he
a
doesn't give a
knife.
shit.
No, he
He
knows.
cares more about Tyrion than he does Cersei at this point, especially with the things that Tyrion pointed out. Like he was the most faithful man in the Seven Kingdoms. He only loved one woman.
Mm,
Made him better even than Ned Stark, because Ned Stark may or may not have had a side piece. Did not. Um,
spoiler.
but yeah, but so he thinks himself virtuous, and he thinks Cersei's on the same page, like that they were in it together, and clearly at this point he realizes she's not. So when he gets this mission into the Riverlands, which a lot of readers think is really boring and pointless, but
Mm-mm.
I really think you get a feel for who Jaime is. I mean, he comes across Lancel, and anyone else in this situation would just want to beat the shit out of Lancel, and
Cut
he
him down.
doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't. He talks to Lancel and sees his way through it, and Lancel like confesses to him. But you just he makes his break, and he decides after talking with Lancel, like it's who she is not worth who he wants to be now.
She broke his heart.
Yeah.
And to touch on a lot of people thinking the overall book, a lot of people think it is boring. I thought it was pretty dry and hard to get through, but I was super, super fascinated with Jaime's parts
Yeah,
because there
I
is
agree.
so much going on with him. Like he really dives in, to being this commander and being involved. He's the orchestrator of this massive chess game,
Right.
and he's executing it.
Well, and a lot of that comes from his Aunt Jenna telling him that Tyrion is more Tywin's son than Jaime is, because Jaime always wanted to be this great battle commander like Tywin.
Mm,
And it's not until she points that out that he doesn't have the
cleverness.
yeah, he doesn't think the way that Tywin and Tyrion do. He goes rushing in with his sword before anything else happens.
Yeah.
He doesn't think, he just fights. And we see that with Ned in a Game of Thrones, and we see it, in a lot of other places where his first instinct is to fight. He does it with Brienne. The first time he gets a little bit of freedom and something to attack her with, he grabs it and starts fighting rather than trying to think his way out of the situation, which Tyrion would have found his way out of that boat with
Mm,
Brienne very quickly.
absolutely.
Uh,
He falls back on what he knows best, but he's got to do it in a different way.
Right. So yeah, his Aunt Jenna points this out to him, and part of the thing he said with this book and A Dance with Dragons, a lot of people think they're dry and hard reads because they're these two like disconnected pieces because they're originally the same book, and it's so big that they had to split it. And
Mm,
like I get that. Something that helped me the last time is there's a few different reading orders where you can mix the books together. And
nice.
so if you just search like it's called a Feast with Dragons reading order. It'll
Hmm.
tell you which chapters to read in which order, and that really helps keep it. It makes it even a longer story, but it helps keep the story flowing a little bit better
I will have to
because it's
try
not
that.
so disconnected.
That's just what was really hard for me. Like I
Yeah,
found myself kind of like really excited at times, and then other times it's like, oh my god, I just want to get through this
you're
next
missing
chapter.
some of the best characters in each book. Like
Yeah.
Arya is completely removed from one book, Jaime's completely removed from the other, John's completely removed from one. Like you're just missing huge swaths of time with these people
Mm,
that you've grown to love. Um, but basically, after Jenna tells him he's not Tywin's son, not literally as we think it may be literal, but that's not why she's telling him. She's saying it in a more figurative manner. He treats with Edmure to try and get into River Run with Tom o' Seven Strings sitting in there playing the Reigns of Castamere.
brutal.
And yeah, brutal because Tom o' Seven Strings likes to make up songs about Edmure's impotence also.
Mm.
So Edmure already doesn't like Tom. Tommy boy.
He's Tommy Boy, and he's got that. I mean, the Reigns of Castamere is such a. If you guys have never
That's a
heard
very
it,
hard listening.
go to YouTube and listen to the Reigns of Castamere. It's got that kind of
Go to season
haunting.
3, episode 9, and watch the last 15 minutes. That'll help you
Uh,
too.
yeah. Hopefully you're not squeamish. But anyway, I thought it was great that he ended up working this. Minimal casualties once
Yeah,
again.
well,
Like
and he threatens at this point with Edmure. He threatens to send his son over the gates in a trebuchet, which is that's rough. That's a rough look for Jaime.
that's that's pretty. It's pretty shitty, man. I'm just gonna say it. Like threatening some
So,
dude that you've known for
well,
a long
and
time.
his son's not even born at this time. I don't think his wife
Yeah,
is still pregnant. Like she's almost about to have the baby, and that's his threat of like you're not even gonna get to meet your newborn baby. I'm just gonna send that bitch over the walls.
yeah. Your name
Um,
will end.
and here's somewhere where the show kind of breaks for me a little bit because in this they get that part in where he threatens to send the son over, but they get it wrong in why he's doing it. First of all, I think it's a veiled threat in the book. I don't think he actually plans on doing that. I don't think he thinks he needs to.
No,
um
no.
and he doesn't. Edmure goes along with his plan. But the show makes it about he says, I'll do whatever I can to get back to Cersei. Which at this point, he doesn't want to get back with Cersei. He's done with her. He's moved
Mm,
on. So like the show just keeps pulling him back into Cersei for no reason. And we'll get to that more later. But like it was so weird how they framed that scene of him like, I would do anything to get back to loving my, and like he just openly admits that they're in a sexual relationship and he'll
yeah.
do anything for her. And like the show broke for me a little on that point.
I mean, I was so pissed when I saw that part. When I saw that in the show, and it's like in the books, he gets that. He gets that raven from Cersei
Yep.
requesting, for him to be her champion.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't respond, and he burns that
Burns it.
shit.
Yep.
Like
Doesn't even let anybody else see it. He
cold
just burns it.
blood. It's just gone.
Nobody,
Whatever.
nobody where he is even knows that Cersei's in any trouble at this point.
And that
Which
is
and so to put those things in the same exact context of in the book he's burning the letter almost immediately after he threatens Edmure, and in the show he's saying I just want to get back with Cersei. She's the
yeah,
best. Yay!
she's my girl.
I
I
just
love
love her.
her. She's so nice.
And then we get that's basically the end of his chapters in a Feast for Crows. Is he burns Cersei's letter? That's the last thing he does. Which fantastic way to end his arc for those
Yes.
stories.
Yes, yes.
But then boom, Dance with Dragons. Don't hear from Jaime all book, and all of a sudden somebody comes riding in.
Comes and finds him.
It's his new BFF, Brienne. She finds him. She says she's found Sansa. Clearly a lie because Sansa's nowhere near where Brienne has been.
Mm.
And she needs Jaime to help rescue her, basically. Which Jaime has traveled, at this point, he's traveled further into the Riverlands. So he's not making his way back to King's Landing to be with Cersei at all after he takes River Run.
No, he's all in on commander mode and
Yeah.
raiding and, doing some stoic and
yeah, he's
cool
trying
shit.
to squash some beef between the Blackwoods and the Brackens, which there's always beef there. I don't know why you're wasting your time, Jaime. Those guys are never going to agree.
Come on, buddy.
So what do you think in the very, very near future? This will probably be the first Brienne / Jaime chapter of Winds of Winter if it ever happens. Where do you think they're going? What do you think they're riding into as they ride away from the Lannister camp?
I don't know. I don't know where George R. R. Martin's gonna go with it. I want to say, that Brienne knows Jaime's becoming disillusioned, and she has that feeling, so she came to get his ass and get him away, and I think that will,
So you don't think they're going back to Stoneheart at all?
You
don't think there's going to be any confrontation with Lady Stoneheart with Jaime?
Yeah.
Because that's where Brienne leaves. Brienne comes from basically almost being hanged by Lady Stoneheart.
Who's so cool in the books. I don't know why they left her out.
She's cool, but she's mostly pointless, especially if because they took Jaime to Dorne instead of to the Riverlands in season 5, dumb. Which we'll get to that. She doesn't have anything to do without Jaime and Brienne in the Riverlands. Like she doesn't matter for the story they were telling in the show, which I guess it's fine. I don't know that she's going to matter greatly. I think they return to Stoneheart, and I think this is Jaime's chance to be truly chivalrous. This is his chance to save Brienne, basically. I think Pod's a goner, actually. I think Pod probably hanged and he's dead by the time they get back.
Hope not.
I know. Pod the stud, but I think this is where, he's been training with Ilyn Payne, using his left hand. I think he has to basically fight for... He might even have to do 2 trial by battles. He might have to fight for Brienne and then fight for himself, both left-handed. And I think either that or they claim to be each other's champions. Something like that happens where he is going to be put in a position to put his life on the line for Brienne and come away on the right side of it. And I don't know that Lady Stoneheart will last longer after that either, because just hanging phrase is getting old for her.
She wants the meat and potatoes that is Jaime Lannister, but I think
Brienne, he may re-vow to go find her children again.
Well, I think you're really onto something. In my opinion, I think Brienne pulls him away, uses that trust they've built, because she knows she's fucked, and he'll be some decent backup to have, and Lady Cold Hands, or whatever. Stoneheart. I always get her mixed up with...
Cold Hands is a lot farther away.
Binging. But anyway, I feel like, she will care more about Jaime being there than, Brienne, but I think Brienne's going to have a change of heart and, has the opportunity to save Jaime. I think Jaime's going to get his ass whooped.
Yeah. That could be.
I think he'll fight valiantly, and he'll be on, death's door. He'll be cool with it. Brienne's ridden off in the distance. He's good to go. He's atoning for his sins. Because, he did push Brienne out of the window and stuff like that. And he did launch this whole thing.
He's got some stuff to atone for.
And then
especially to Catelyn Stark.
Oh, yeah. And then I can just see Brienne coming in, whack, cut your arm off, cut everybody down, save Jaime, and goes... Do you swear to protect her children, this and that, and then hands oath, keep her back. Boom.
Oh, could be.
Heard it here
I
first.
like that. The quick tangent on Lady Stoneheart that I came across doing research. So the in-universe story is that Thoros Amir Beric breathed the kiss of life into her, basically transferring his life force into her, resurrecting her after she'd been dead for 3 days.
In a river.
In a river, pulled out by Nymeria, which we see through Arya's point of view as she's having a wolf dream. So I read an interesting thing that it's not actually Beric that restored her, but it's maybe a piece of Arya and Nymeria that is living in her. So in the same way we see like Varamir Sixskins try to skin change into that woman in his prologue chapter. Like maybe Arya is somehow controlling Stoneheart, and that's why she's not working all the time, because Arya can pretty much only skin change when she's sleeping still. So like maybe that part of her is controlling Stoneheart and doing the hanging of Freys and the hunting down of Freys and Lannisters and all of that.
That's
I don't have a lot of
fascinating,
I
man.
don't have a
That
lot of
is
info on it, but I'd like to research that more because I really thought that was interesting, and that would be something that'd be really cool to see play out. I doubt it will, because I don't think Stoneheart's going to be along very much longer.
no.
But like I just think that's
fascinating.
cool of kind of Arya getting to live out her death list through Stoneheart.
Well, I mean, if when she leaves a bit of her personality and she's working while she's sleeping, it's very primal.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how when Bran went into Hodor and it was just,
Right.
he's freaking out and he's very scared and stuff like that. I think that would be Stoneheart's natural reaction, would just be, primal, kill these sons of guns. But that's
Right.
super fascinating, dude. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, a lot of great theories for A Song of Ice and Fire. I love every theory I hear. Some of them are terrible, but I still love that they exist. Except the theories that I hate are the show only theories, where like people clearly have no idea what the motivations for certain characters are,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like, oh well, Hodor's gonna ride a dragon. How? What? Why would that ever make sense? A lot of bad show theorizing going on.
A lot of bad show theorizing.
A lot of great book theorizing though. Keep that up, guys.
Well, it just goes back to. Well, sorry, I don't want to go on that because we'll talk about it.
Yeah, getting back to Jaime, I think, after whatever confrontation he has with Stoneheart, I think you said he'll probably go on to try and protect the children. I think he actually returns to King's Landing because I think Cersei is planning her own wildfire plot, because she knows where all those caches of wildfire are hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he hears about that and he tries to make his way back to stop her. And maybe he doesn't make it in time, but I think probably close to the end of book 6, Jaime and Cersei both die, and I think it's going to be kind of a mirror to their birth, where basically they go out killing each other as they came into the world, Jaime holding Cersei's foot. I think Jaime basically strangles Cersei with his golden hand, and Cersei somehow kills Jaime at the same time, is where I think their end comes.
Wouldn't that be some killer shit if she got him with a sword? Got him with like Widow's Wail or something?
Oh, fuck Widow's Wail.
Yeah.
That sword.
But
Stupid Joffrey.
That's honestly a really, really fascinating
because
theory.
I think there has to be something there to mirror that, like he came into the world holding on to her foot.
I agree. Like maybe they fall off a balcony or something. Like there's so many ways to play it off that
But I mean, his gold hand has to come into it somehow too.
Absolutely.
Because she's disgusted by it.
And just I could just see him wiping it on her face. But anyway, like I would be totally okay with that conclusion to their stories. Like, I would be totally comfortable for it.
I think that's the only way to end them both.
Here's what I got.
Well, it's to me that fulfills the bittersweetness too for their arc, because Jaime again is now be a Queenslayer, and again it's one of his greatest acts is killing, but this time he's too late to prevent the wildfire. So it goes off and he can kind of say, you see what happens when I'm not here to put a stop to this, and then puts a stop to it. Right.
I mean, not only would he be a Queenslayer, he'd be a Kinslayer.
Yes.
So I mean,
he'd wrap up all the slayings. He's definitely going to all 7 hells.
And I want to say Jaime needs a bittersweet ending, but I don't think that's what George R. R. Martin's going to give us.
What do you got?
I think Jaime's going to have that good life. So I think once they get away from Stoneheart, he's basically going to settle with Brienne, and they're going to make the plan, and they're going to end up joining with Daenerys. And he's going to, no one knows he's joined with Daenerys yet, so he ends up going back to King's Landing where, Cersei's queen, she's freaking out, blah, blah, blah. He sneaks in, and then he sees ballistas. Qyburn and her building these ballistas, and he sees hundreds of them, da-da-da-da-da. And
not just one, like in the show.
I'm saying, like, he gets there, exactly one. Bronn is a crazy good shot
Yeah, good job, Bronn.
But thousands of them
Love
lining the ramparts of King's Landing, and every precipice and tower has a ballista on it. So instead of letting the dragons die out, like, I think Jaime sees that the chessboard needs to be wiped clean. Like, the world needs to be reset one way or another, and I think he's going to cut down Cersei, and it's going to be a mirroring of when he cut down the Mad King.
Yeah. So we're all in agreement that Jaime kills Cersei.
Yes, but I don't think Jaime will die.
Okay. Agree to disagree. So here's another question that this is theorized with pretty much every character in the books. Is Jaime Azor Ahai?
No.
I don't think so either. There are some compelling arguments to be made for him being Azor Ahai and Oathkeeper being Lightbringer. Cersei in this case would be Nissa Nissa. Basically, he kills her and fulfills the prophecy.
Yeah.
I do think he will kill Cersei, but I don't think he's Azor Ahai, or he's not the Azor Ahai. I think in a story like this, I think George R. R. Martin has it set up where if you look at it the right way, several characters will be able to fill the prophecy if you put the pieces together just so, and kind of fudge things a little bit here or there. I think you'll be able to fit a couple different characters into the prophecy.
Yeah.
You might be able to fit Arya in there. You might be able to fit Tyrion, Jaime, all these people who are more or less heroic by the end of the story. You're going to be able to find a way to project Azor Ahai onto them.
Yeah.
In reality, it's most likely some combination of Jon and Rhaegar.
Yeah. That was my thought.
Yeah.
The evidence pointing towards Jon is
there's
just so
way too much evidence of
being.
And there's a lot for like Rhaegar is Azor Ahai and Jon is Lightbringer and the things like that, where it's like these ways where you have to look at it to steal from Star Wars from a certain point of view to make things fit. So there's a lot of that out there. I agree. I just don't think Jaime is. I don't think he's going to end up being just this good character that would be described as the last hero. There's going to be a lot of gray in his life still when he ends his arc, whether he's alive or dead.
I think if he ends it alive, Jaime will just be Jaime. After all these events, there won't be, he won't be special anymore. And I think he'd be cool with that. Like, I think he's totally cool going on with his life and, having little gigantic babies with Brienne.
Little gigantic babies.
No, they're still little as babies, but
then they grow to be
babies.
gigantic. Yeah. So let's talk about the show. I'm going to let you go first because I have two pretty good rants fired up, and I don't want to get sucked into them and not let you talk at all. So I'm going to let you talk about what you think of the show, about Jaime in the show, not necessarily the show overall.
Okay. I think Jaime in the show is a bitch, dude. Like,
well said.
They do a decent job of like conveying that inner turmoil and the lengths he'll go to of to satisfy Cersei in season 1 because they were going basically play by play from the first book. It felt
and that's who he is in a Game of Thrones, in the book of Game of Thrones. Like that's exactly who he is. The things I do for love is who he is at that moment.
But I think they totally failed. They make him like this pushover, pussy ass, not very imposing character.
He's Cersei's lapdog. He's not
exactly. He's larger than life. He is Jaime Lannister.
And in a Game of Thrones and a Clash of Kings, he does the things he does for love, because it also benefits him and Tywin and Tyrion. It benefits them as a whole.
Yeah.
Not. Well, Cersei said to do this. I better do it.
Well, I mean, it benefits them as a whole. He's neutered in the show, man. Like, Jaime's a passionate, angry guy. In the show, he just sits there with his eyes kind of wide and like his teeth gritted sometimes. And they kept all the redemption arc for Jaime in their back pocket by taking out the Riverlands, and like you learn a lot of stuff about Jaime in the Riverlands, and glossing over various things. And now they're rushing this redemption arc, I feel like. Like, they're going to do something that's way over the top that doesn't fit with Jaime just to, because that's the way it's got to be because he's a good knight.
You see it in at the end of season 7. His turn from away from Cersei finally happens.
Finally,
and it's God. But it's for the stupidest reason.
Mm-hmm.
His reason is because she said she was going to help Jon fight the war in the north. But then as soon as Jon leaves, she says, nah, I'm not going to do that. We're cool. Euron's going to get me some ships or some shit. I don't know what the fuck Euron's doing. He's going shopping at Hot Topic. And he'll be back soon. Yeah, he'll be back soon. But I'm not going to go help Jon. So that's the whole reason. That's the only reason Jaime decides to turn on her is because she was like, well, I said I was going to, but I'm not really going to, which Cersei has never lived up to her word. I don't know why he thinks she would hold on to her word all of a sudden.
Exactly.
That decision doesn't make sense for who they've built. They've built Jaime, this character, which doesn't make any sense to begin with, but it doesn't even fit the character that they built for him.
No, not at all. Come on, dude. Cersei she lied, so that's why you're finally gonna leave? Yeah. She lied to me. Like, come on, you little...
She lied to Jon.
Yeah. Well, she's gonna make me look bad. Like, now it's the right thing to do, and now I'm gonna go out of my way. And it's like, I wasn't buying the late separation from Cersei, because that is such a major character
If you've
arc.
gone through 7 seasons of being by her side, like, you might as well have just kept him by her side the whole time. Like, you might as well have just done it, because you never gave him these chances at redemption, or you started to give him these chances at redemption, and then you took him away as soon as he started to make that turn, because you weren't ready for him to make that turn, because you didn't actually know where the story was going, and now you have to make the story on your own, and you can't, so you're just throwing shit out there now. But along the same lines as what you had, my biggest problem with Jaime is that he has no actual arc. He is a straight line. He starts out as an asshole knight every time he gets any little shot at redemption. Season 3, season 4, when he's with Brienne, you can kind of see that he may be a sympathetic character. They just rip it away from him and make him go do something rash and stupid out of his devotion for Cersei. Like you said, he's just a wimp, and he does whatever Cersei says. Because every time he's starting to show that he's changed, they just bring him back to Cersei so Cersei can tell him to do something stupid. Mm-hmm. He doesn't seem to actually learn anything from the time he spent with Brienne, which, all of it, Feast for Crows, that's what he's reflecting on, is these things he learned from and with Brienne.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of time to think, and that's what he does. Like,
every time he sees Cersei in the show, he's just back to the things I do for love. It never progresses past, well, she's here, she told me to do it, I need to do it.
Exactly. I mean, he's her bitch. And I feel like in the show, they just made it to where, they boxed Jaime in. So now I don't even feel like they'll have a satisfying arc.
Well, that's like I don't care what he's going to go help Jon fight the Night King, and he's going to die in battle, and that's going to be all you can do with him, because there's nowhere left for him to be redeemed.
No.
What he's going to do is Brienne's going to be about to be killed, and he's going to kill the White Walker who's about to kill her first. Like, that's going to be his redemption while taking a sword to the heart. And that's shitty for how...
It's not good enough. Like, no, his character is so good in the books, and they didn't do it any justice, man. Like, I get that it's a TV show and you gotta skip over something, but if they would have done Jaime right, like...
He should have turned sometime in season 5. Yeah. And so let's talk about season 5. Let's talk about Dorne. Everybody's favorite place.
Fuck Dorne.
I don't have a problem with Dorne. I don't have a problem... Well, I have a problem with how Dorne was pulled off. I will say that. I don't have a problem that they sent Jaime and Bronn to Dorne. Because honestly, it gave us more Bronn, who Bronn in the show is fantastic.
He really is.
Every chance that he got, he shined, and like anything that they can do with him in the show is great. Mm. And the pairing of them together is great too. Like they just work so well together. The actors do and the characters do in the show. What I have a problem with is this was their chance to show him as growing as a character, like we've been talking about. They start to, he confronts Myrcella, about being her father, but then as soon as like they have this moment of realization, and he kind of says, well, I'm going to be a father. Like, that's what I'm going to do with my life now.
Yeah.
They kill her. And they take it away from him.
So stupid.
So once you kill her, all he has left to do is go back to Cersei and do the next thing that she asks him.
Mm-hmm.
which
Oh,
is
he's
finally
just.
go to the Riverlands, but he just goes to the Riverlands so he can get back to Cersei.
He's so. I think that was another way of them just trying to break Jaime visually for you,
Hmm.
but he's already broken.
Well,
Like,
and they just, like you said, they weren't ready for him to turn on Cersei yet.
mm-mm.
At some point, he needs to turn on Cersei, and in the show, the writers of the show were not ready for that. They could have done so many things in Dorne, even without putting all Doran's scheming in there.
Yeah.
Like there's a ton of things that they could have done with Jaime and Bronn in Dorne that could have been compelling. But they gave him 8 episodes to do it, and they couldn't do it. I feel, and this is, I'm gonna go on a rant here, so just stick with me. That this is part of my bigger problem with the show. With the show now, like season 5 and beyond, without George R. R. Martin to lead them, Benioff and Weiss just are not good storytellers in this world. I've seen some other things that both of them have written, and they can write good and compelling stories, but in this world that George R. R. Martin created, they don't know how to tell stories here. You saw it with Dorne, and you're seeing it now basically with every other plot. Like they had their chance with Dorne to try this out. This is something that George R. R. Martin hadn't written anything about yet. What's going on in Dorne is completely different. They could have told any story they want, put Jaime and Bronn there, make it compelling in a way that makes sense in the show, and they didn't. They made it stupid and cheesy and boring. Every little part of it was bad.
Yeah.
Um,
I totally agree, dude. And you said the perfect word. They can't tell the story in George R. R. Martin's world.
I think they came into it expecting him to either have finished the books by the time they reached the end of their stories, or at least he would have kept giving them information. But he broke from them before that, and I think Dorne is a big part of that. I think he said, "Look, you've got this one storyline. You guys take it where you want to go. It's not really that important to the end game of my story. You guys take it where you want to go." They butchered it, so he kind of took himself out of it. He's like, "No, you guys can't tell the story. You guys tell your own story. I'm going to save my story for myself now. I'm not helping you guys anymore." And you can kind of see that through most of season 6 and all of season 7 that this is not George R. R. Martin's story at all.
Not anymore.
They had their chance. They failed miserably, and he took himself out of it. They don't know how to build in the details that he builds in. And it just feels like if every scene isn't leading up to boobs or a pithy comment or a big fight, they just have no idea what to do with themselves or with the characters in this story. And it's a shame because the characters in the story and the story is so fantastic.
So good.
And I just want to live as much as I can in this world. But the world that they've created post season 5 is not the world I want to live in. I don't know how they've spent so long with these characters. They both said that they were fans of the books before they started writing for the show. They've been on the internet, so they know what's out there as far as theories and world building goes. I don't know how they've spent so much time with these characters in this world, and they can't figure out what motivates the characters to do what they need to do and convert that into a TV story.
They miss the point. It's a character-driven story. They
yada yada over all of that. They just are
exactly.
Like, this guy's here because he's here. They know where the end is, so they're just getting pieces in place to be at the end. And that's all. They don't care how the pieces get there, which is a huge part of character building and world building is.
Absolutely.
If I've grown to follow these characters for 7 years, I don't care that now, okay, they're fighting the White Walkers. I want to know how and why they got there and why it makes sense for this character to make that decision to be there.
Exactly. It's the story is good. The characters make it great. Like the dynamics between them and it's so hard to explain, but their inner thoughts
in the early part of the story, people in rooms talking was the most compelling parts of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I told you, my wife and I just started watching season 7 again. We just started episode 1. Because she wanted to catch up before season 8 comes out in April. Literally the first 20 minutes is complete exposition. It's just 2 or 3 people talking at a time of just exposition of, well, this person is here because this, and it's like they're trying to describe how the entire world works, which they've had 7 years to do and have done a poor job at it. So now they have to hurry up and explain how everything works and where everything is and why. But it's not, you don't get to you don't get to see the characters become those things. It's just Jaime telling Cersei, well, Euron is this kind of person because he did this and this and this and this. You don't actually get to see Euron be this terrible person.
Exactly.
It's just Jaime says, oh, he's Ironborn, so he's terrible.
He's scum. And
like, it's stupid.
They're trying to tie it off in a little bow, and it wouldn't need to be tied off in a little bow if they just told the fucking story right. Like, it would come naturally, and that's what's fun about the book.
Tell the story right. They just have to tell a compelling story, which they're not doing.
It's so
I don't care that it's different than what George R. R. Martin would do. I just want it to be something that I want to watch.
Exactly.
If this is how season 1 would have started, I would have never wanted to watch it. Like, it's not entertaining. And the show, it does have its moments. It can still be very spectacular. The dragon battle from last season 7, the loot train battle,
Super
as it's
awesome.
called. Terrible name. Great imagery. The ice dragon attacking the wall, and even them pulling the ice dragon out of the sea. Awesome. But it's never the writing or the dialogue that makes the show spectacular anymore.
Shock moments.
Which is what originally drew me into the show. The show had tits and dragons, which is a great bonus, as Ian McShane puts it. But everything happening in between the tits and dragons was well thought out and smart, and everything happened for a reason, and the characters were doing what they were doing because they had motivation within the universe, not just because, well, I need to be in Dorne, so I better get to Dorne.
Right.
They had reasons in universe to be there, and now it just feels like things happen so we can get to an ending. It's probably going to be an unsatisfying ending, and I just don't get it. I don't care about these characters and what they're doing anymore.
Not anymore. The only one I honestly care about still is Tyrion and probably Jon Snow.
Well, Jon Snow, I feel like they're probably I think they have the most information on Jon Snow. Because for all intents and purposes, he's the hero of the show. He's the one that's going to be standing on the mountaintop at the end.
And they've framed him that way, absolutely. Right. And I really cannot wait for these books to get cranked out, man. Like, I want to know. I gotta know.
Well, the exposition, and now they're putting the exposition in weird places too, like the last episode of the season where they put the exposition of what happened, how Jon came to be. They're putting over Jon having sex with Daenerys while Bran's talking to Sam about it. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why are we conflating those two things at this moment? Like, those two things don't fit together. Like, Jon is committing incest. He's going down the bad Targaryen path as we're learning that he's a Targaryen. And Jon is supposed to be better than that. That's the whole point of him being the hero.
But they took away from that revelation of Jon being a Targaryen and made it, dude's banging his hand. Like, our two most popular characters are together now. Woo, love story.
Which that's not important.
Not to the overall story, no. And I mean, yeah, it's cool, and yeah, it's what a lot of people wanted, and it's a good cash grab. I did notice I said a lot of people, but I just don't.
So here's my theory with Jon, real quick. Jon will become the 1000th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Because he was the 998th, and then he died. So somebody else will take over for him. In the interim, he'll go back, do south of the wall stuff for a while, defeat the White Walkers, and he'll take his rightful place on the wall as Lord Commander.
Dolores Ed.
Dolores Ed, yeah.
Yeah, he's Lord Commander right now, isn't he?
In the show, they made him the stand-in. They haven't, in the books, they didn't name anyone because it was literally Jon dying was the last thing we see at the wall.
Okay. Sorry,
But in the show, like, as Jon's leaving, he's like, Dolores Ed, you're in charge.
Yeah.
Dolores Ed's at a different castle in the book. He's not even at Castle Black.
There's so much that they missed in the show.
Yeah. And, I mean, like, changes are fine. Like, changes happen. Just have you don't even need a good reason for the change. Just make the change as compelling as what's actually going on. Like, I don't care that Aegon doesn't exist in the show.
Yeah.
He's not one that's probably going to make it to the end of the books either. So his arc probably doesn't matter. But cutting him out, you didn't do anything in its place. You didn't do anything good in its place. You just gave his things to do to Jorah Mormont for no reason.
Yeah, they lost a lot of credibility in my eyes. because it's such an epic book with so many characters and so many, crisscrosses and spider webs, but that's what makes it so interesting and intricate.
Yeah.
The show is just, let me take these 10 characters, we'll kill off one you really love every once in a while, and other than that, we'll focus on them.
And you can see it with how the internet reacts to both. You can see how deep and well thought out the theories on the books are.
Mm.
Like any fan theory out there on something that's happening in the books is like it has all this evidence to back it up, and it has examples of potential foreshadowing and so much in the text because people have just been poring over it for 20 years now. So there's so much like R plus L equals J, like that's not noticeable the first time you read it unless you already know it's there. But these people reading over it and over it and over it figured it out because he does such a good job of planting these little seeds. And so there's so many theories out there that most of them are probably wrong, but they're still interesting and compelling to think about because it would be cool because you can see the seeds for it, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
And then you see with people theorizing about the show, it's just like, well, this dragon's got to be here because Tyrion's going to ride a dragon because he lost his nose, and every dragon has a big nose, so then Tyrion needs to ride a dragon. Like, they're just the dumbest, least thought out things that I can possibly read.
Yeah, it's
Also, they're giving the wrong dragon to Jon in the show.
Yeah, man.
But Jon is supposed to ride Viserion.
I think you're right about, people reading and seeing the depth, and I've read all the books at least twice, and there's tons of stuff I didn't
I've
remember.
only done the main 5. I've done twice, and I've done the World of Ice and Fire, like the encyclopedia. I've done that once. I haven't read Fire and Blood yet. I want to read that, and then I've done all the novella, the Duncan Egg novellas. Those are fantastic.
Same here. I read those too, and those are great.
Those are great, and they even have some foreshadowing for what could come. And then I've done all the, like, he's done a couple of other short stories in some of his, they like put these large, they're books of short stories, basically, they put together from all these different fantasy worlds, and he's got like 4 or 5 out in those, but they're just one-off stories about the Age of Dragons kind of things, which are pretty interesting.
Prequel stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just so much to dive into, and the show just misses so much of it.
They rushed it. They have a timetable to work with. I get that. Like, some shows aren't meant to be, nice and, good longevity, I guess.
Well, and I think they expected him to finish or to at least keep helping them. And he didn't do either of those things.
You're exactly right.
Plus, Brienne went from being a normal 8-year-old to a NBA power forward in 2 years. Dude is huge. I think he's taller than me.
LeBron James.
LeBron, more like it.
LeBron James.
Oh, shit, dude, man. Shot up out of nowhere. Yeah, all right. That's all I've got for Jaime Lannister. You got any more thoughts on Jaime before we close out for the day?
That's all I got for Jaime, guys.
We went almost 2 hours on it, so make sure you listen to both parts. Thank you if you did listen to both parts. We'll usually try and keep them shorter, but this one I had 5 pages notes. You said you had a lot of notes.
Yep.
There's just too much. There's actually a lot of depth to Jaime, which if you've only seen the show, you wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, you'd never know.
But now you know.
And
go read the books.
There's a ton more information out there about Jaime, and go read those books.
Go read the books. That if we leave you with anything, it's go read the books, please. Also, if we leave you with anything else, follow us on Twitter at APA something. Send us emails to apodcastaboutSomething@gmail.com. Should they review us on iTunes?
I would like to think that's a great idea.
And subscribe,
rate,
review, all those things.
Leave a review. It really helps us out, guys. We would appreciate it greatly.
If you don't use iTunes, subscribe on whatever you use. You can't do the rating and review thing, but you can still subscribe. We like that too.
We're out there everywhere.
Yeah, so check us out. Tell all your friends. We're here. We'll be here every week. We got a good one coming next week too. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to follow us on Twitter to find out.
Surprise, surprise.
We'd like to thank those cats for providing all of the music for a podcast about something. And that's all I got.
That's all I got. Stay sassy, guys.
Stay classy.